Let's embark on the extraordinary journeys of those who changed the world with their courage and unwavering determination. They were not born with a special destiny. They were ordinary people like us. But they all shared one thing in common: the courage to dream and the determination to pursue those dreams to the very end. Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space, who braved unprecedented dangers to pursue the era of space exploration. Thor Heyerdahl, who drifted across the vast Pacific on the Kon-Tiki raft, determined to prove that ancient civilizations might have conquered the oceans thousands of years ago. Robert Peary, who ceaselessly pushed northward, battling the harsh Arctic conditions to become the first person to reach the North Pole. Charles Lindbergh, who solely piloted his aircraft across the Atlantic, defying exhaustion, extreme weather, and the limits of human endurance. Charles Darwin, who spent 5 years aboard the Beagle, uncovering nature's deepest mysteries and laying the foundation for the theory of evolution. What challenges did they face? How did they overcome the impossible? And what drove them to never give up? Join me as we uncover inspiring stories filled with trials, perseverance, and boundless determination. These stories will not only give us a deeper understanding of these extraordinary figures, but also ignite the motivation to pursue our own dreams. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Charles Lindbergh, the transatlantic flight and extraordinary determination. On a chilly morning of May 20th, 1927, at Roosevelt Field Airport, New York, a young man with a determined gaze stepped onto a single-engine aircraft. The Spirit of St. Louis. That man was Charles Lindbergh, and he was about to attempt the impossible, flying non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean. Born in 1902 in Detroit, Michigan, Lindbergh came from a family with a strong background in education and politics. However, instead of following an academic path, he was captivated by the aircraft that were beginning to appear in the skies. His passion drove him to enroll in flight training, and before long, he became an airmail pilot, conquering the skies despite the dangers and countless risks involved. Lindbergh quickly gained fame as a daring pilot, willing to take on any challenge. When he heard about the Ortig Prize, a $25,000 reward for the first non-stop flight from New York to Paris, he saw it as more than just an opportunity to make history. It was a test of his skills, endurance, and unwavering willpower. Under immense pressure from well-funded and highly experienced competitors, Lindbergh remained resolute in pursuing his dream. He and his team of engineers designed the Spirit of St. Louis, a compact aircraft with a single engine and no radio, stripped down to minimize weight and maximize its flight range. On May 20th, 1927, he took off from New York. 4:33 hours and 30 minutes. Lindbergh battled exhaustion, harsh weather, and moments when his aircraft dangerously lost altitude. He had no co-pilot, no radio for communication, only himself and the vast sky. Below his wings lay the cold Atlantic Ocean. Above him, thick layers of clouds. At times, he flew just above the ocean's surface to avoid storms. Other times, he found himself lost in dense fog, relying solely on instinct and expert piloting skills to keep moving forward. Then, on the evening of May 21st, 1927, the dazzling lights of Paris came into view. As he landed at Le Bourget Airport, he was met by a roaring crowd of over 150,000 people cheering in celebration. Lindbergh had accomplished the impossible. He became the first person to complete a non-stop transatlantic flight, proving the incredible courage and capabilities of humankind. His victory made him an American hero. But life after the achievement was not easy. He faced relentless media scrutiny, threats such as kidnapping attempts, and the overwhelming burden of sudden fame. However, with his indomitable spirit, Lindbergh continued to dedicate himself to aviation. He contributed to aircraft development, played a role in advancing aeronautical technology, and inspired generations to follow in his footsteps. Lindbergh's story is not just about a historic flight, it is a testament to willpower and determination. He did not have the most favorable conditions, yet through passion, perseverance, and an unyielding spirit, he conquered what seemed impossible. His journey teaches us valuable lessons. Dream big, do not fear limits, believe that you can achieve great things. Persevere, success does not come instantly, it requires persistence and self-belief. Embrace challenges, the path to greatness is full of hardships, but overcoming them makes you stronger. No matter what dream you are chasing, remember, every great achievement starts with a vision and an unshakable resolve. 2. Yuri Gagarin, The Journey to the Stars. On the morning of April 12, 1961, at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, a young man with a radiant smile stepped into the cockpit of the Vostok 1 spacecraft. In just a few minutes, he would become the first person in history to travel into space, ushering in a new era for humanity. But behind this glorious moment was a life filled with hardship and unbreakable determination. Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin was born in 1934 into a poor farming family in Klushino, Soviet Union, now part of Russia. His childhood was overshadowed by World War II. When Nazi Germany invaded, his family was forced out of their home and had to live in a tiny, shabby hut. Those years of hunger and struggle did not break him, instead, they fueled his dream to soar higher than the birds in the sky. After the war, Yuri was determined to study engineering and aviation. Despite his humble background, he worked harder than anyone else. No opportunities, no problem, he would create them for himself. With a passion for flying, Yuri joined the Orenburg Aviation School. He was smaller than most pilots, but he made up for it with persistence and sheer willpower. Through unwavering dedication, he graduated with excellence and became a fighter pilot in the Soviet Air Force. In 1960, when the Soviet Union began selecting candidates for its first cosmonaut program, Yuri applied immediately. More than 3,000 candidates submitted applications, but only 20 were chosen for the grueling training process. The tests were extreme, pushing human limits to the edge. Locked in an isolation chamber for weeks to test mental endurance. Flying under extreme gravitational forces. Enduring intense pressure that made blood rush to the legs and caused dizziness. Survival training in dense forests. Preparing for emergency landings in remote areas. Yuri wasn't the strongest or the biggest, but he possessed iron willpower, calmness under pressure, and exceptional intelligence. These qualities made him stand out and led to his selection as the first person to fly into space. On April 12, 1961, Yuri stepped into Vostok 1. As the countdown ended, the massive rocket roared, propelling him into the sky. Amid the vastness of space, he looked down at Earth and exclaimed, "The Earth is so beautiful. I am flying." But few knew that in those triumphant moments, he was also facing a life-threatening crisis. The spacecraft malfunctioned during re-entry. The booster module failed to detach as planned, causing it to spin uncontrollably. Yuri remained calm, waiting until the last second, and narrowly escaped disaster when the module finally separated in time. He didn't land inside the capsule. Instead, He parachuted from 7 kilometers (23.000 feet) above the ground. After 108 historic minutes, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space, turning humanity's dream into reality. Returning to Earth, he was celebrated as a global hero. He visited dozens of countries, becoming a symbol of science, courage, and exploration. Yet, instead of basking in fame, he continued working to advance the space program. He dreamed of returning to space, but fate had other plans. In 1968, during a training flight, his aircraft crashed. At just 34 years old, Yuri Gagarin's life was cut short, but his legacy lives on forever. His story is not just about glory, it is a journey of resilience. Born into poverty, it doesn't matter, dreams have no limits. Hardships and challenges, keep pushing forward, space is for those who dare to conquer. Calmness and perseverance, these are humanity's greatest weapons. More than 60 years later, Yuri Gagarin's words still inspire millions. Fly high, dream big, because there are no limits for humankind. Three, Charles Darwin, The Voyage of the Beagle and the Scientific Revolution. On a December morning in 1831, a young man stood on the deck of the HMS Beagle, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon. At just 22 years old, he was about to embark on one of the greatest journeys in the history of science, a voyage that would forever change the way humans understand life on Earth. That young man was Charles Darwin. Charles Robert Darwin was born in 1809 in England, into a family with a strong background in science and medicine. His father wanted him to become a doctor, but Darwin had no interest in the dull lectures of medical school. Instead, he was fascinated by nature, strange creatures, and distant lands. As a child, he roamed the fields and forests, collecting insects and observing animals. His insatiable curiosity led him to study biology. However, he never imagined he would become one of history's greatest explorers until the opportunity to join the HMS Beagle arrived. In 1831, the British Royal Navy organized a global expedition aboard the HMS Beagle. The main goal was to map unknown lands, but they needed a young scientist to study the ecosystems along the way. Darwin immediately accepted the offer, but the journey was anything but easy. The small ship faced violent storms, rough seas, and the isolation of the vast ocean. Darwin, unaccustomed to life at sea, suffered from severe seasickness throughout the expedition. Yet, he never gave up. Despite the hardships, he explored, collected, and documented everything, from animals and plants to ancient fossils. His persistence would soon lead him to a groundbreaking discovery about the origins of life. After months at sea, the Beagle reached the Galapagos Islands, an isolated archipelago in the Pacific Ocean. Here, Darwin noticed something peculiar. The finches on different islands had distinctly shaped beaks. The giant tortoises had differently shaped shells depending on their habitat. Each species seemed to have adapted to its environment over time. These observations laid the foundation for the theory of evolution. But at the time, Darwin did not fully understand their significance. He simply recorded, sketched, and collected specimens, unaware that he was nearly approaching revolutionizing science. After 5 years of exploration, Darwin returned to England in 1836 with an extraordinary wealth of knowledge. However, when he presented his idea that species were not fixed creations but had evolved over millions of years, he faced immense opposition. At the time, Most people believed that all living beings were created by divine power and remained unchanged. The idea of evolution was seen as heresy, and Darwin was harshly criticized. But instead of backing down, he spent 20 more years refining his research. Then, in 1859, Darwin published his groundbreaking book, On the Origin of Species. This book provided compelling evidence for natural selection, the process by which organisms with favorable traits survive and pass on their genes. Although highly controversial at first, Darwin's theory eventually transformed the way humanity understands life itself. Darwin's story is not just about a scientific expedition, it is a lesson in determination, resilience, and the pursuit of knowledge. No one is born great, it is curiosity, hard work, and perseverance that create extraordinary individuals. Dare to think differently. The greatest ideas are often met with resistance. But if you believe in your vision and continue your research, you can change the world. There are no limits to human knowledge, keep exploring, and you will discover what no one else has seen before. Today, Charles Darwin is recognized as one of the greatest scientists in history, and his theory of evolution remains the foundation of modern biology. But his greatest legacy is not just his discoveries, it is his spirit of exploration and his refusal to give up in the face of adversity. And you, if you have a dream, if you dare to seek the truth and embrace challenges, who knows? You, too, might change the world, just as Darwin did. 4. Robert Peary, The Conquest of the North Pole and Unbreakable Will. On the morning of April 6, 1909, in the harshest, most unforgiving frozen wilderness on Earth, a man stood still, his eyes gazing into the endless white horizon. He planted the American flag into the ice, marking a historic moment. For the first time, humankind had set foot on the North Pole. That man was Robert Peary, an explorer of extraordinary determination who dedicated his life to conquering the most extreme and uncharted land on Earth. But before achieving this monumental feat, he had to endure countless hardships, brutal challenges, and near-death experiences. The early years of an explorer. Robert Edwin Peary was born in 1856 in Pennsylvania, USA. From a young age, he was captivated by stories of great expeditions. As he grew older, Peary joined the U.S. Navy, but instead of settling for a stable career, he set his sights on a far greater goal: to be the first person to reach the North Pole. At the time, the Arctic was a frozen mystery, feared even by the most seasoned explorers and sailors. Blizzards, sub-zero temperatures, and drifting ice had already claimed the lives of many who had attempted the journey before. But Peary was undeterred. Early expeditions and harsh lessons. In 1886, Peary embarked on his first expedition to Greenland, but he was forced to turn back due to extreme weather conditions. Refusing to give up, in 1891, he returned to Greenland with his wife and a team of explorers, venturing deep into the icy wilderness to study the climate and geography. However, the challenges became even more brutal. Food shortages, forcing them to survive on reindeer and seal meat. Bone-chilling winds that froze their limbs, threatening their survival. Ferocious snowstorms, keeping them trapped in their tents for weeks at a time. Despite these hardships, Peary not only survived but also learned valuable survival techniques from the Inuit people, lessons that would later prove crucial for his final push toward the North Pole. Over the next several years, Peary led numerous expeditions, each taking him closer to the Arctic's heart. But each time he neared the North Pole, he was forced to turn back due to storms, food shortages, or the physical exhaustion of his team. In 1906, Peary came incredibly close to the North Pole, but treacherous drifting ice and severe weather forced him to retreat. Despite this setback, he refused to let failure stop him. No defeat was enough to make him give up on his dream. The final push to the North Pole. At last, in 1909, Peary, along with his trusted assistant Matthew Henson and a team of Inuit explorers, set out for one final attempt. They endured a grueling 700-mile (1.100 kilometers) journey across the Arctic ice, facing cracking ice, forcing them to leap across deep crevasses between massive ice floes, blinding blizzards, reducing visibility to almost nothing, temperatures below -40 degrees Celsius -40 degrees Fahrenheit, where exposed skin could freeze within minutes. But Peary never backed down. Step by step, mile by mile, he pressed on, ignoring the pain of frost-bitten limbs and the exhaustion of months in the freezing wilderness. And then, on April 6, 1909, Peary and his team finally reached the North Pole, becoming the first humans to conquer Earth's frozen crown. He recorded the moment in his journal. "I have reached here. The North Pole is ours." A legacy of courage and determination. The conquest of the North Pole was not just a feat of bravery, it was a testament to unbreakable willpower. Peary had faced failure, life-threatening danger, and impossible odds. Yet he never gave up. His journey leaves us with valuable lessons. Do not fear failure. We may fail many times, but as long as we do not quit, we will eventually succeed. Perseverance and preparation matter. Success is not about luck. It comes from dedication and relentless preparation. Dare to face challenges. The harder the journey, the greater the reward. Peary proved that nothing is impossible when one has the determination and strength of will to pursue it. Perhaps the greatest lesson he left for future generations is this: there are no limits, except the ones we impose on ourselves. So, live with the spirit of Peary, dare to dream, dare to go further, and never, ever give up. 5. Thor Heyerdahl, the Kon-Tiki expedition and the will to conquer the ocean. In 1947, amid the vast Pacific Ocean, a wooden raft drifted upon the crashing waves. On board, 6 men battled storms, sharks, and complete isolation from the world. They had no engines, no modern technology, only sails and their own hands to steer the vessel. Leading them was a Norwegian explorer, Thor Heyerdahl, a man who defied the skepticism of the scientific community to prove that ancient civilizations could have crossed oceans using only the simplest of tools. But before creating the legend of Kon-Tiki, Heyerdahl endured a journey of hardship, relentless challenges, and unwavering determination. A curious mind and a bold theory. Thor Heyerdahl was born in 1914 in Norway, growing up in a family that loved nature. From a young age, he was fascinated by stories of ancient civilizations, distant islands, and daring ocean voyages. After studying anthropology and geography, Heyerdahl and his wife traveled to Polynesia, a chain of islands in the Pacific Ocean, to study its people and wildlife. It was there that he developed a radical theory. Could the ancient people of South America have migrated to Polynesia thousands of years ago using wooden rafts instead of sailboats? At that time, most scientists dismissed this idea. They believed that ancient humans could not have crossed thousands of miles of ocean using simple wooden rafts. But Heyerdahl refused to accept theoretical arguments. He was determined to prove it through action. The Kon-Tiki expedition, a journey against all odds. To test his theory, Heyerdahl decided to build a wooden raft, identical to the ones that ancient South Americans might have used. In 1947, along with 5 crew members, he set sail on a raft named Kon-Tiki, made entirely from balsa wood and natural ropes. Without any engines or modern navigation tools, they embarked on an 8.000 kilometers (5.000 mile) voyage from the coast of Peru, heading west into the Pacific. From the very first days, they encountered terrifying obstacles. Massive waves crashing into the raft, nearly flipping it over. Giant sharks circling them, waiting for a moment of weakness. Violent storms, plunging them into darkness and freezing waters. Limited fresh water and food, forcing them to survive on fish and rainwater. At times, the crew's spirit nearly broke. But Heyerdahl never lost faith. He believed that if ancient humans had done it, so could they. After 101 days adrift, on August 7, 1947, Kon-Tiki finally reached a coral island in Polynesia. They had made history. The world was shocked. Heyerdahl had proven that ancient civilizations could have traveled vast oceans on primitive rafts, opening a new chapter in the study of human migration. Beyond Kon-Tiki, more expeditions, more discoveries. Heyerdahl didn't stop with Kon-Tiki. He continued launching new expeditions to explore ancient migration routes. 1969, he built a papyrus reed boat named Ra to test whether ancient Egyptians could have sailed across the Atlantic to the Americas. 1977, he embarked on the Tigris voyage, exploring ancient trade routes between Mesopotamia and the Indian Ocean. Even though some journeys ended in failure, he never gave up. He firmly believed that truth must be proven through action, not just theory. A lesson in courage, determination, and breaking limits. Heyerdahl's story is not just about an adventure, it is a lesson in perseverance, resilience, and belief in oneself. Believe in the impossible and turn it into reality. Never back down from challenges because difficulties make us stronger. Do not accept rejection if the world says it can't be done. Prove them wrong. Heyerdahl was once doubted by the entire world, but he refused to let skepticism hold him back. Because of this, he changed the way we understand history, science, and human potential. If there is one lesson the modern world can learn from him, it is this: do not fear challenges. Dare to step out of your comfort zone. The hardest journeys lead to the greatest discoveries.